the Sports Renegades podcast on SportstownChicago.com. Welcome into the Sports Renegades here on SportstownChicago.com. I'm Ryan Stuprich.
And I'm Ryan Risky.
Sorry we're a little late today as there was some studio issues in here well, I think Ryan Risky walked in here and there's a whole bunch of stuff going on. That was not right.
Yeah.
Something was still recording. We had to restart the computer a couple times. Tabs were open on the thing. But yeah, we're back at it now for this week. We'll also be on tomorrow for Ryan and Ryan. But we're on here today. I'm Ryan Stuprich.
And I'm Ryan Risky.
And I think what we're going to start off talking about is sort of just our some news in baseball in general. The Cubs losing 3 of 4 to St. Louis, which obviously isn't good, but St. Louis is on a roll. They're actually, before their loss last night, they were off to their best start in franchise history, which is not a good sign.
No, especially when Adam Wainwright is still out for the season. Right. And, I mean, if you think about it, other than today, they were pretty much all winnable games because, I mean, the Cubs had leads in those first 2 games and the bullpen came in and blew it. Justin Grimm was just 3 games too late to arrive.
Yeah.
And, I mean, the bullpen's just been an issue all season. It gets a boost with Grimm, and Pedro Strop just looks fatigued because he's had to pitch every game because no one else can get an out. And I was just starting to wonder, like, you know, no one's getting an out. Why don't you put Hector Rondon in?
Yeah, you might as well get his innings in.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't been pitching in forever because there's never a lead anymore with the way the bullpen's been blowing things. And throw in the fact that, I mean, Strope's the only one getting outs. Everyone else is allowing runs. I mean, it's good to see James Russell back as well. And right now, Justin Grimm's back. Hope it'll take him a little bit to get back into things, get kind of used to everything because he hasn't pitched since spring training. And I know he had a pretty good inning today in the 5-1 loss, and it was a disappointing loss because Arrieta was pitching, and if you had to pick one game all series for the Cubs to win, I probably would have picked this one.
Yeah, I think I would have too. It's just it's really not good because Lackey, of course, had a really good game. Jake Arrieta 2 games in a row now. He hasn't done what he needs to do. Lester was good last night, and I'm glad the Cubs didn't have a 4-game sweep, but the Cubs should have really won those first 2 games.
Or at least one of them.
Especially the one on Monday where they lost 10-9. I mean, that is unacceptable. I feel like the Cardinals, no matter what the score is, they always score enough runs to win the game. So if the Cubs score 1 run, the Cardinals will score 2. If the Cubs are leading by 4, the Cardinals will make sure that they put up at least 5 on the board.
Yeah,
they always do what they have to do, just enough to win.
You had a feeling that was going to be a long game when they scored 5 in the first inning, and then Mark Reynolds just hits a grand slam in the bottom half of the inning. It was just kind of like
that.
Really?
I think was partly because Travis Wood was waiting like 35 minutes to pitch, but also that was very disappointing, obviously, as it was 5-4 after the first inning, and you knew it would be high scoring after that.
You know, I mean, in the Cubs, they worked really hard, put together a lot of singles and walks. There might have been a double in that inning, a lot of productive outs to score those 5 runs, and then Mark Reynolds just hits a grand slam.
Right,
like
even Travis Wood had a hit.
Yeah, I was just thinking, you know, this is looking really good. And I mean, they had like 2 5-run leads in that game. They had the 5-0 lead, and then they were up like 8-4, and then St. Louis continued to come back. And I mean, the bullpen just kept giving up runs, and people are bashing Joe Madden for taking Travis Wood out of that game. I was like, well, you couldn't leave him in. He was giving up a ton of hits. I think he gave up back-to-back hits to start the 5th or the 6th inning, and then he had to yank him, and then whoever came in started giving up runs.
It's just the bullpen, unfortunately, I mean, it was so strong the first 2 weeks of the season and then it just...
Then Ramirez went down.
And Grimm, was never with the team until now, and... I mean, it's just they're very unreliable now, and now anytime now we're back to like 2014. Anytime the Cubs have a lead, it's like, oh well, the bullpen's going to give it up.
Yeah, the bullpen never really was an issue at the end of the season because Ramirez and Grimm and Rondon and Strop were pitching so well, except when 2 of those guys get injured, it becomes a big problem.
Yeah, it does, and it sucks. But the Cubs are in a good spot now, at least who they're, if you're looking ahead in the schedule, they play at Milwaukee. It's very important to sweep Milwaukee this weekend to get back on track, and then you get 4 games above 500, I think, because right now they're 14 and 13. If you can get to 17 and 13, you'll feel pretty good about yourself after the horrendous 4 days in St. Louis. So,
yeah, and they almost blew the Lester's game when Molina hit that check swing RBI single on that pitch in the dirt. I was just thinking, oh no, here we go again, and they were winning like 5-1. I was like, oh no, especially when something like that happens. And then the game Hendricks pitched, they had a nice inning, scored 3 runs. They were up 4-1, looking pretty good. And then Matt Carpenter just hits a 3-run homer.
Of course, so that's what he does, and that was his first hit all series, and it was that 3-run homer. And he didn't do much, as far as the series. The Cubs were able to cool him off, which is surprising. But
one guy that's been on a tear though for St. Louis is Colton Wong.
Yes, he has been on a tear. He was sort of he was a call-up a few years ago, right? And I think he played in the World Series in 2013 and everything, and he did pretty well, if I remember correctly.
He was the guy that was picked off of, might have been first or whatever base he was on in the 9th inning. He was picked off of first base in the 9th inning, and that's how the game ended, I think. Or maybe that was the game where there was that obstruction at third base.
No, it was the game after that. Because the Cardinals and Red Sox were like trading wins and losses that whole series, and then the Red Sox, I think, won games 5 and 6. But yeah, it was very interesting. It just seems like anyone that the Cardinals call up always seems to do pretty well, and that's not good. I mean, Adam Wainwright's down. I think Lyons is the guy they called up to replace Wainwright. I think it was Lyons.
Yeah, they called him
he
up.
Pitched pretty well on Tuesday. He pitched Tuesday. The Cardinals ended up coming back and winning that game too, but the Cubs weren't really able to get much offense off of him besides the first inning.
Yeah, that was actually pretty funny that the one guy they beat was Lance Lynn.
Right, the one guy they beat was Lance Lynn. Although, I mean, Lance Lynn, at least a lot of Cardinals fans, I don't think they're big fans of Lance Lynn. He's too inconsistent for the Cardinals. So
really,
I mean, he's a pretty good pitcher, but you always see on, I always see like on my feed on Twitter and stuff, everyone always complain. The Cardinals fans complain about Lance Lynn, and they always complain about Matt Adams too, and he's a pretty good hitter. He's batting like over 300, and they complain about him too. So
yeah, I think the thing with Lance Lynn is a lot of times at the end of the year, like he usually has a good first half, and then the second half he kind of cools down a little.
Yeah.
And you and me are still looking for our first win by going to a Cub game, and I really didn't think that we'd have gone to 3 games already and seen all losses.
0-3, yeah. I have a feeling that's going to change, but
I hope it changes next Wednesday when we go.
And it'll change for you this weekend. I'm predicting a sweep in Milwaukee, and you're going with your dad up to Milwaukee.
Well, I'm talking about the streak between you and me.
Yeah, I know, but I think you'll personally see a couple wins up there in Milwaukee.
I hope so. I'm going Saturday and Sunday. Then we're going. I think they're playing the Mets next Wednesday.
They are.
All right. Yeah, and I think the Mets have like 3 really good pitchers pitching. I think the pitchers are Cologne, Harvey, and DeGrom in that series.
That doesn't get much better than that. The Cubs will be throwing out some good people because I think the weekend series is against Milwaukee is Hamill, and then it would be Wood and Hendricks. So we'll probably see.
We'll see Hamill.
So we'll see Hamill if that is a Monday, Tuesday,
Wednesday.
I think
our pitching matchup's going to be like DeGrom and Hamill. I think Hamill's the guy pitching when we go because I think it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with that. He's a pretty good pitcher. He's also on my fantasy team at the moment. So
at the moment,
yeah. My team is doing okay. We'll look more into that later on in the show or tomorrow or something.
Yeah, the funny thing is, I thought that I didn't realize how good my team did last week until I looked at the score.
I think you almost scored 1,000 points.
I had 930 points. I didn't realize that I had scored that many points until I looked at the scoreboard and see like the next highest was like 650. Yeah. I was like, oh my god!
Yeah, no one's reached 1,000 yet in our league. It's possible. I'm actually on pace, I think, to get 1,000. I'm doing really good this week. Because I really good pitching outing last night from Lester, Lester and Jacob deGrom.
Yeah,
they
Kluber
both did
didn't
really
help
well.
out.
And my fantasy team hit 6 home runs yesterday.
What?
That's right. 2 by Evan Longoria, 1 by Rizzo, 1 by Jason Kipnis, I think, hit 1. Kyle Seager hit 1. Paul Goldschmidt hit 1 in a doubleheader against Colorado.
I think my team has
There's a couple
one.
others too. So
I think I have one home run this week.
Oh wow, yeah, my offense definitely broke out. I think I scored like 178 fantasy points on my offense in one day, and then my pitchers accounted for like 83 more points. So it was really exciting. So I'm winning right now, but
I would have been closer to 1,000 if I actually had a catcher, because Devin Mesoraco has just made me so mad this year.
Yeah, I
he's
saw
not
you
going,
dropped him.
Yeah, they're like, oh, we're not putting him on the DL even though he might need hip surgery and he's going to miss 4 to 6 months. I'm like, yeah, I'm done with him.
Right.
So that was just so frustrating because they never put him on the DL, so I could never pick up anybody, and I couldn't just go and drop him because he's such a good hitter. And I was just like, forget it.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be lose. I already lost a game because my catcher didn't play any games.
That sucks.
I lost the game against your brother because I had no catcher. And so, yeah. Anyways, back to the Cubs.
Yeah, they have a very important weekend series, as we said, against Milwaukee to get back on track. It's another division. I mean, they've been playing teams in the division all month pretty much, and pretty much the whole month of April besides Colorado. So they
and San Diego.
Yeah, and San Diego. So they really need to win these division games, keep Milwaukee down. I think Milwaukee's 9-20. I know they got blown out today, 14-4.
The funny thing is that when we heard Ron Ronicky got fired, both you and me just couldn't believe it. And because they had won 2 straight against the Cubs, they fire him, and then I'm just
and you take a look at his history. I mean, he brought them to 2 playoff appearances,
and with a low payroll. And then I was just thinking, I feel really sorry for the new manager because his first game is against Clayton Kershaw. I was just like, man.
Poor Craig Counsell.
And then, of course, the bullpen blew that game, so the Brewers won.
Right.
If they blew Kershaw's game.
I mean, I think a lot of Brewers fans are happy about this only because
it's Craig Counsell.
Yeah, Craig Counsell was a fan favorite for like 10 years with Milwaukee. So
honestly, I don't think it's a bad choice at manager.
No, it's not a bad choice. He's been within the organization. He probably learned a lot from Ron Ronicky. I think at this point, I mean, they're doing so bad. It's not like they're going to have a turnaround necessarily. They're 9-20.
They're not winning the division.
Yeah, a turnaround's not going to happen. But I think Craig Counsell was an interesting choice. It was probably the best choice. I mean, I know Rick Renteria is still on the market.
So is Ron Gardenhire. I think they really kind of like indirectly said it was going to be Craig Counsell because they fired Ron Ronicky at like 8 o'clock p.m. and they're like, oh yeah, we're going to announce our new manager at 10 a.m.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't really give you much time to get details together to hire a guy outside the organization like Ron Gardenhire, Rick Renteria.
Yeah, I'm sure Ron Ronicky will find a new job fairly soon.
I'm sure there'll be, especially at the end of the season when guys will be getting fired. I'm sure him and Ron Gardenhire will be highly sought after guys.
Yes, their phones will certainly be ringing. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll come back and we'll talk about the White Sox. We already talked about the Cubs. We'll probably come back to the Cubs and preview the series against Milwaukee. But we'll talk about the Sox coming up, and they won the series against the Tigers, which was exciting. But now they lost this afternoon, and we'll see what happens coming up next for them. You're listening to the Sports Renegades here on SportsTownChicago.com. The Sports Renegades podcast on SportsTownChicago.com.